If you want your arms to grow, we've got to get away from the idea that there's some secret exercise hiding out there that magically unlocks massive size. There isn't. What works is doing the right things consistently, with intensity, and in the right order. So let's break it down into 5 steps you can actually follow over the next 30 days. Step 1. Prioritize direct arm training. Yes, your arms do get some work from big compound lifts like bench press, rows, and pull-ups. But if you want them to really grow, you've got to give them their own spotlight. That means biceps curls, triceps pushdowns, skull crushers, overhead extensions, the bread and butter. Train them 2 to 3 times per week with enough volume to create a growth signal. Think 8-20 hard sets per week per muscle group, depending on your recovery. More than that, you're probably just trashing your elbows and wasting energy. Less than that, not enough to really stimulate growth. Step 2. Progressively overload. If you lift the same weights for the same reps every single workout, don't be surprised when your arms stay exactly the same size. Muscles grow when they're forced to do something harder than last time. That can mean adding weight, adding reps, slowing the tempo, or shortening rest periods. But something has to make the workout just a little tougher than before. Progression isn't optional. It's literally the language your muscles understand. Step 3. Dial in your nutrition. If you want your arms to be bigger in 30 days, you need building blocks. That means protein intake around 1 gram per pound of body weight per day and a slight calorie surplus so your body actually has energy to grow tissue. If you're in a calorie deficit, congratulations, you're on the get leaner, not bigger plan. A surplus doesn't mean you eat like a raccoon at a dumpster buffet, just enough to tip the scale slowly upward. Step 4. Recovery and consistency. Growth doesn't happen while you're curling. It happens while you're resting and recovering. Sleep 7 to 9 hours per night, keep stress in check, and give your arms at least 48 hours between hard sessions. And then the consistency part, don't miss workouts, don't wing it. Don't train arms once this week and 5 times next week. Stick to the plan for the full 30 days. That's the difference between someone who actually sees results and someone who says, nothing really works for me. Step 5, train with intensity. If you're knocking out curls while scrolling Instagram, that's not arm training, that's finger cardio. Each set should be close enough to failure that the last couple reps feel like a genuine challenge. Not necessarily grinding to absolute failure on every set, but pushing far enough that your muscles are forced to adapt. Remember, muscles don't grow because you want them to, they grow because they have no choice. Follow these 5 steps for 30 days straight, and your arms won't just feel pumped after a workout, they'll actually start looking bigger, stronger, and more defined. When people say they want bigger arms, 9 times out of 10, they're already doing plenty of pressing and pulling. Bench press, overhead press, pull-ups, rows, all of those hammer the arms indirectly. But here's the problem. Indirect isn't enough when your goal is direct growth. Imagine trying to grow your calves by just squatting. Sure, they get some tension, but do they really get the spotlight? Not really. The arms are the same way. If you want biceps and triceps that pop out of your sleeves, you've got to give them their own training, their own attention, their own spotlight. That means curls, pushdowns, skull crushers, dips, hammer curls, overhead triceps extensions, the classics. Not the flashy Instagram exercises with bands, not secret angles someone claims to have discovered in their basement gym, just the bread and butter movements that hammer the muscles directly. Now, direct training isn't just about exercise choice, it's about volume. The research is crystal clear. To make meaningful hypertrophy gains, you need somewhere in the ballpark of 8 to 20 challenging sets per muscle group per week. That's not a guess number, that's the sweet spot where you get enough stimulus to grow without overloading your joints or running into recovery issues. If you're only doing 2 sets of curls after a back workout once per week, don't be surprised when your arms look the same year after year. On the flip side, if you're doing 35 sets of arm work every week, expect your elbows and shoulders to file a complaint. Somewhere in that 8-20 set range tailored to your recovery capacity is where you'll thrive. Let's talk frequency. If you try to do all 20 sets in one arm workout, you're going to crash. By set 12, your form is garbage, your pump is gone, and you're just swinging weights around pretending it counts. Better to split it up into 2 or 3 sessions per week. For most people, that's the sweet spot. Enough volume per session to create a strong signal, but not so much that quality crumbles. Think biceps and triceps twice a week, maybe 3 times if your recovery is on point. That way, every session is fresh, your pumps are glorious, and the stimulus is spread out for maximum effect. Another mistake people make is thinking arms grow from heavy lifting, just like legs or back. Not exactly. Arms tend to respond best to moderate rep ranges, 8 to 15 reps per set, sometimes even 20. Why? Because the muscles are smaller, the joints are more sensitive, and higher rep work pumps more blood into the area without wrecking your connective tissue. Heavy curls with poor form, congratulations, you're training your lower back, not your biceps. Controlled, moderate weight curls taken close to failure, now you're cooking with gas. And here's the kicker. Mind-muscle connection matters more on arms than almost any other muscle group. When you're benching, your pecs are going to work whether you think about them or not. But on curls and pushdowns, it's really easy to just move the weight with momentum and get very little stimulus to the actual target. So slow down, focus on the squeeze, keep your form clean, and make sure the biceps and triceps are actually doing the work. This isn't yoga. You don't need to feel spiritual, but if you can't feel your arms working during arm training, you're doing it wrong. The bottom line, if your goal is bigger arms in 30 days, you can't just rely on compounds. You need direct arm training, intelligently programmed, with enough volume, at the right frequency, in the right rep ranges, with quality execution. That's what turns I kind of work arms sometimes into I need new shirts because these sleeves are about to burst. Progressive overload is one of those phrases that gets thrown around all the time, but most people don't actually practice it. They'll nod their head like, oh yeah, you've got to overload to grow, and then go to the gym and do the exact same workout with the exact same weights, the exact same rest breaks, and then wonder why their muscles look the exact same year after year. Here's the simple truth. Muscles only grow if you force them to. They're lazy. They don't want to grow because bigger muscles cost more energy to maintain. Your body is perfectly happy keeping your arms skinny forever if you let it. The way you convince your body otherwise is by making each workout just a little bit harder than the one before. That's progressive overload in a nutshell. Do more over time, and your muscles adapt by getting bigger and stronger. Now, overload doesn't always mean piling more plates on the bar. That's the caveman version of it, and while adding weight is one form, it's not the only form. In fact, if you only think of overload as add 5 pounds every session, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and possibly injury. Sure, you can add 5 pounds here and there, but eventually that pace stalls. When you can't just add more weight, what else can you do? You can add reps, you can slow down the tempo, you can cut rest periods. You can do more total sets. You can tighten your technique so the target muscle actually gets more of the load. All of these count as overload. The point is that the workout today has to challenge you more than the workout you did last week. Take curls, for example. Let's say last week you did 3 sets of barbell curls with 50 pounds for 10 reps each. This week you could try 55 pounds for 10 reps. That's progressive overload by weight. But let's say you're not ready for 55. No problem. Instead, aim for 11 or 12 reps with the same 50 pounds. That's overload by reps. Or maybe you decide to pause for 1 second at the top of every curl, making the muscle contract harder and longer. That's overload by tempo. The idea is simple. Something has to move forward. If nothing moves forward, nothing changes in your arms. The cool thing about progressive overload is it's not linear forever, but it doesn't have to be. Think about it. If you could really add 5 pounds to your curls every single week, you'd be curling 1,000 pounds in a couple of years, and you'd have arms the size of tree trunks. That's obviously not happening. Progress slows over time. When you're new, you can overload rapidly. When you're intermediate, it's slower. When you're advanced, it's glacial. That's normal. The key is that there's still progression in some form, even if it's tiny. Adding 1 extra rep per week over months adds up. Holding a contraction 1 second longer per set adds up. Your muscles don't care how it happens. They just care that you've pushed them beyond what they were used to last time. Another thing people mess up is mistaking junk volume for overload. You're just doing more sets, but each set is low quality, half range of motion, poor form, stopping way too far from failure. That's not overload. That's just exercise. And exercise doesn't guarantee growth. Training with progression does. That means the overload has to be specific to the muscle you're targeting. If you're supposed to be training your biceps, but all your curls look like a full body wiggle dance, you're not overloading the biceps, you're just practicing bad dance moves. Overload means the biceps or triceps are being challenged more than they were before, not your lower back or your ego. And let's not forget, progressive overload requires tracking. If you're not writing down what you did last workout, how do you know what to beat this time? Relying on memory is a rookie mistake. You might think, yeah, I did like 3 sets of curls with 40 or 45 last week, but then you pick up 40 again and repeat the same exact thing without realizing you didn't progress. Write it down. Keep a log. Numbers don't lie, and they don't forget. You can only beat what you know, so know your numbers. Now, does every single set of every single workout have to be harder than the last? No. That's another misconception. Overload works in trends, not every moment. Some days you'll be tired, some days life will hit you, and maybe you won't progress that exact session. That's fine. What matters is that over weeks and months, the overall direction is upward. If you zoom out on your training log and see that in January you were curling 40 pounds for 10 reps, and in March you're curling 50 pounds for 12 reps, guess what? You've overloaded, and your arms will show it. So here's the deal. Progressive overload is not optional. It's not a trick. It's not a hack. It's not a fad. It's the one rule of hypertrophy that never changes. If you're not making your workouts harder in some measurable way over time, you're not growing. Your arms will look the same next month, next year, and 5 years from now. But if you respect the process, log your training, push for gradual increases in weight, reps, tempo, or density, your arms will have no choice but to adapt. And when they do, you'll finally see the growth that everyone else keeps chasing with secret exercises and magic programs. The secret is simple: overload and adapt. Nutrition is where most people who want bigger arms completely fall flat. They train hard, they do their curls and pushdowns, they even push themselves close to failure, but then they go home and eat like a bird and wonder why their arms aren't growing. Muscles are built out of raw materials, and if you don't give your body those raw materials, it literally has nothing to construct new tissue with. You can't build a brick wall without bricks, and you can't build bigger arms without protein and calories. That's the truth most people try to ignore because it means they have to be disciplined not just in the gym, but also in the kitchen. Let's start with protein, because it's the #1 nutrient for hypertrophy. If your protein intake is low, your muscles will never grow optimally, period. The rule of thumb is about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. If you weigh 80 pounds, you're aiming for around 180 grams of protein. This isn't some magical number, it's just the level that consistently supports growth across studies and in practice. You can get it from chicken, beef, fish, eggs, dairy, or plant-based sources like beans, lentils, tofu, or seitan. And yes, protein powder counts. It's literally just food, not steroids in a tub. What matters is that by the end of the day, your total adds up. If you hit the gym and train like a beast, but you're only eating 60 grams of protein, you're basically sending your muscles the signal to grow and then giving them no building blocks to follow through. That's like yelling at workers to build a house and then giving them 0 lumber. Now, protein alone isn't enough. You also need energy, calories, because building muscle isn't free. If you're in a calorie deficit, your body prioritizes survival, not growth. That means no matter how much you want bigger arms, they won't happen if you're eating less than you burn. To grow, you need a small calorie surplus. Notice I said small. You don't need to eat like it's Thanksgiving every day and pretend it's bulking. That just makes you fat, not jacked. A reasonable surplus is about 250-500 calories above your maintenance level. That's enough to give your body energy for growth without turning you into a doughy mess. If you're gaining more than about half a pound per week, chances are a good chunk of that is fat, not muscle. Slow, steady weight gain is the name of the game. Carbohydrates are also a big part of the picture. They don't directly build muscle, but they fuel your training, and better training equals better overload, which equals better growth. Eating carbs before and after training helps you push harder and recover faster. Think rice, oats, potatoes, fruit, bread, pasta. You don't need to go crazy with them, but don't fear them either. If you try to cut carbs while aiming to grow your arms, you're shooting yourself in the foot. No fuel means no performance, and no performance means no growth. Fat is the last piece. While it doesn't directly build muscle either, it's essential for hormone production and overall health. Around 20–30% of your calories from fat is a solid guideline. That can come from things like nuts, olive oil, avocado, fatty fish. Don't overthink it. Just make sure you're not cutting fat so low that your hormones tank and not so high that it eats into your protein and carb intake. Balance matters. Now let's talk about meal timing, because while it's not as important as total intake, it can make a difference if you're trying to maximize results in just 30 days. Getting protein spread evenly across 3-5 meals a day seems to support growth better than slamming all your protein in one meal. That's because muscles can only use so much at once, and spreading it out means you're giving your body multiple opportunities to recover and grow throughout the day. Around 25-40 grams of protein per meal is a good target for most people. Hydration matters too, because muscles are about 70% water, and dehydration tanks performance. If your sets feel like garbage and your pump disappears halfway through your workout, there's a good chance you're just not drinking enough water. Aim for at least a couple liters a day, more if you're sweating heavily. Electrolytes can help as well, especially if you're training in hot conditions. A well-hydrated muscle performs better, pumps harder, and recovers faster, and all of that adds up to more growth over time. Here's another thing to remember. Supplements are not a replacement for nutrition, but a small handful of them can help. Whey protein is just a convenient way to hit your protein target. Creatine is probably the most studied and effective supplement for strength and size. 5 grams a day, every day, no cycling, no magic loading phase required. Caffeine can help you train harder. Beyond that, most supplements are either marginal or just plain useless. If your diet isn't on point, no powder or pill is going to suddenly make your arms grow. So if you want bigger arms in 30 days, the formula is simple but not easy. Eat enough protein every day, eat in a small calorie surplus, fuel your training with carbs, keep your fat intake in balance, stay hydrated, and spread your meals out so your muscles get a steady supply of nutrients. It's not glamorous, it's not biohacking, and it doesn't make for flashy Instagram posts, but it works. Training gives your muscles the signal to grow, and nutrition gives them the resources to make it happen. Without one, the other fails. If you train without eating enough, nothing happens. If you eat a ton but don't train hard, nothing happens. Put them together, and suddenly the next time you flex in the mirror, you might actually notice those sleeves feeling a little tighter. Recovery and consistency are the two most boring words in fitness, and yet they're the ones that make or break whether your arms actually grow. Everyone loves to talk about the exercises, the sets, the reps, the flashy new program, but very few people want to talk about sleeping enough, managing stress, or showing up to the gym week after week like clockwork. And that's why so many people spin their wheels. They'll train hard for a week or two, skip a few sessions, stay up half the night playing video games, eat garbage, and then wonder why their arms look the same. The truth is, muscles don't grow in the gym. They grow when you recover from what you did in the gym. Training is the spark, but recovery is the fuel. Without it, the fire burns out. Think about what happens when you lift weights. You're literally damaging your muscles. Micro tears in the fibers, depletion of energy stores, stress on connective tissues. But that's what training is. It's a controlled form of stress. Now, stress itself doesn't equal growth. Growth happens when your body repairs that stress and builds back stronger. That rebuilding doesn't happen while you're curling a dumbbell. It happens while you're sleeping, while you're resting, while your body has the chance to adapt. If you constantly hammer your arms but never give them time to recover, you're basically digging a hole deeper and deeper without ever filling it in. And no surprise, your arms stay the same size, or worse, they get smaller or injured. Sleep is the #1 recovery tool, and it's free. 7 to 9 hours per night is the gold standard. Not 6, not I'll catch up on the weekend, not that I'm fine on 4. If you're serious about bigger arms, you have to be serious about sleep. Growth hormone, testosterone, muscle protein synthesis, all of these processes run hot during deep sleep. Cut your sleep short, and you're literally cutting short your gains. And no, pre-workout energy drinks don't cancel out bad sleep. They just make you feel less tired while your body is still under-recovered. It's like slapping duct tape on a leaky pipe. So if you want your arms to grow, treat sleep as seriously as you treat your workouts. The other big piece of recovery is managing fatigue. Training hard is necessary, but training too hard for too long without breaks just buries you. That's why you don't train arms to absolute destruction every single day. Muscles need about 48 hours to recover between hard sessions. That means if you blasted biceps and triceps on Monday, give them at least until Wednesday or Thursday before you hit them again. If you ignore this and train them every day, you're not doubling growth, you're doubling stress. There's a difference between training hard and just smashing yourself into the ground. The first builds muscle, the second builds injuries. Consistency ties it all together. You can have the perfect training plan, the perfect diet, the perfect sleep routine written on paper, but if you don't actually follow through day after day, nothing happens. The body doesn't respond to what you plan, it responds to what you do repeatedly. Doing 3 perfect workouts and then skipping the gym for a week isn't consistency. Eating well Monday through Friday and then turning the weekend into a junk food festival isn't consistency. Staying up late for a week straight because you're busy and then expecting your arms to recover is not consistency. Muscles grow when you stack small, boring wins on top of each other for weeks and months. That's it. That's the secret nobody wants to hear because it's not glamorous. Here's where people mess up. They expect visible changes in a week, maybe 2, and when they don't see them, they bail. But muscle growth, even in 30 days, is subtle. You might not notice it day to day, but if you nail your training, nutrition, recovery, and consistency, you will notice by the end of the month that your sleeves feel just a little tighter, that your pump looks a little fuller, that the weights you were struggling with a few weeks ago now move smoother. That's progress, and if you keep stacking that month after month, that's when real transformations happen. Stress management is another underrated part of recovery. If you're constantly stressed out, your body lives in fight or flight mode, and that's not an environment where muscle grows well. Cortisol stays high, sleep quality tanks, recovery slows down. Now, you don't have to become a monk, but it's worth paying attention to. Walks, meditation, breathing exercises, or even just unwinding with something that relaxes you. All of that can help you recover better. Because the calmer your system is outside the gym, the harder you can push inside it. And let's not forget consistency and effort. A lot of people show up to the gym consistently, but half their workouts are lazy. They go through the motions, check their phone between sets, stop a good 5 reps short of failure because it's uncomfortable. That's not the kind of consistency that builds arms. Showing up matters, but showing up with intent matters more. If you're consistent about doing high-quality work, that's when the magic happens. So the recipe is simple. Train hard enough to spark growth. Rest long enough to recover. Sleep enough to rebuild. Manage stress so your body isn't always in crisis mode. And then repeat that process consistently without skipping or slacking. Do that for 30 days and your arms will be measurably bigger. Do it for 6 months and you'll need new shirts. Do it for years and people will be asking you what your secret is. And you'll laugh because you'll know the truth. The secret wasn't some hidden exercise or supplement. It was recovery and consistency all along.